for the kind intro. As Anna mentioned, I'm presenting on how to build a compelling data science portfolio and resume. I'm a data science manager at Quora. If you're not familiar with Quora, we're a knowledge sharing platform with over 200 million monthly unique visitors. We also have a fantastic data science community. So if you're not familiar with us, join us. Follow the data science topic. There's some cool content on there. I post occasionally as well. So just introducing my talk for today. So for my talk, I'm first going to go very briefly over the motivation of building a data science portfolio and resume. I'm going to go over my 9 tips based on my own experience reviewing resumes at Quora and reviewing the batch of resumes submitted by Kaggle CareerCon attendees. I'm going to recap the 9 tips. And I'm trying to leave enough time afterwards for Q&A. So please submit your Q&A via YouTube Live or Slack. Cool. So the first section is motivation. So your data science portfolio and resume is your opportunity to represent the best of yourself. But the most important thing really is represent it succinctly and represent how good of a fit you are for that role. And it's not really a secret that recruiters and hiring managers skim resumes very quickly, especially since we end up with very large stacks. So you only have like 10, 20, 30 seconds to make an impression. So in your resume, you really want to make every single line, every single section count. And of course, improving your resume will increase your chances of getting the first interview. So it is worth the time investment. Cool. So now it's my 9 tips. These 9 tips cover a lot of the basics. These are important basics that help you represent the best of yourself. All of the resume screenshots, except for the template example, are real screenshots from resumes submitted by you guys, the Kaggle CareerCon attendees. Cool. So my first tip is length. Please keep it simple and 1 page max. So 1 page is very important, especially to just make it easier for hiring managers and recruiters to skim your resume. It's much better to have a 1-page resume with your highlights than a 2 or 3 page CV with all of your achievements. Like keeping it 1 page will basically make sure you have the most impact for a quick skim. 1 page is also much better for career fairs where you can give out your page to recruiters. It's also much better for all kinds of recruiting software where recruiters and hiring managers will be able to see the full page resume without having to open the PDF and scroll down. I get some questions about LaTeX or Word. It really is up to you. Use whichever one you're more comfortable with. Word allows you to fiddle around with all of the margins and all of the spacings and see things immediately, whereas LaTeX, it's just a template where you don't have to fiddle around with any spacing. You'll be able to make it work in the template. Use whichever one you're comfortable with, like either one works well. For the templates, I recommend a simple 1-column template. Like I see a lot of resumes with distracting visual elements, but the best resumes really are simple and easy to skim. The most important thing really is easy to skim. For simple, no distracting visual elements, like color is even like mostly unnecessary. Keep it simple, make it easy for people to scan through the left half of your resume to see a lot of the key points so they can dig in further. I usually recommend a 1-column resume. 1-column resumes are also less busy and easier to skim. It's easier for a hiring manager or recruiter to look through the left side. And I always recommend using a template. Don't try to, unless you're applying for some sort of visual design, please don't try to make your own template. There are plenty of Microsoft Word templates or LaTeX templates that are available to you. And also, it's also much easier for hiring managers and recruiters if you use a familiar format. So using a template is very helpful here. A lot of this really avoid too many frills on your resumes. The resume, if you make it easier for the recruiter or hiring manager to skim, it makes it much better for you because you can represent yourself the best and make sure you get over you get across your most important points. There's one template I really like. This is a nice, simple one-column resume template. It's available for free on GitHub. It's called Software Developer Resume by Saurabh Bajaj. Cool. I have a link in the presentation. Cool. So now for my next tip. I see people include objectives in the resumes. I actually recommend for people not to include one. It's because objectives don't really help you distinguish yourself from other people. A lot of them say very similar things at the essence. A lot of them say the same thing. I want to learn. I want to get a data science job. I want to help contribute to my company. Like I want to use my years of experience. All of these actually are not too useful because they take away space from the more important things, which I think are the skills, the projects, the experience, and things like that. Because the objectives don't really help you distinguish, and most of them say roughly the same thing, I recommend you exclude them entirely. If you're interested in including some sort of summary, you can always include it in your cover letter. I view cover letters as extremely optional. I really only think cover letters are useful if you can really personalize it for the company you're applying to. Otherwise, for a lot of data science positions and a lot of even software engineering positions, hiring managers and recruiters really care about the skill set, and cover letters and everything are really just completely optional. Cool. So this is one thing that I haven't seen as many people list in their resume, but I would really like to suggest for people to include. This doesn't take that much space. It's listing the relevant coursework that's applicable for the job description. So the important part really is relevant. If you can read the job description and you can see that the hiring managers are looking for someone who knows data analysis, it's very important to try to put whatever statistics, data analysis, linear modeling, any sort of statistical modeling courses in your resume. Like this makes you be able to showcase your talents, and especially if maybe a hiring manager or recruiter is looking for someone with a statistical background, like this is a very quick way to show that you have a statistical background and aren't purely focused on machine learning and software engineering and all things like that. So put your coursework, but more importantly, put the coursework in there ordered by what is most relevant for the resume, not ordered by your favorite courses or something like that, but put the things that are most relevant first, and that will help a lot. The next tip, I see some people do this on the resume. I don't recommend giving numerical ratings to your skills. The problem is that these aren't calibrated at all. So the numerical ratings are not that useful for people who read your resumes. Like, what does a 4 out of 5 on R mean? What does a 4 out of 5 on Python mean? Is it concerning that they aren't rating themselves a 5 out of 5? I don't recommend really rating yourselves on your skills. It's also, there's definitely no standardized rating. Like right here, we see like 5-point scales and 10-point scales. If you do want to rate yourselves on your skills, I recommend keeping it simple, like using the word like proficient or familiar or things like that, or you can just exclude assessments altogether. Sometimes I also see people rating soft skills on here. I don't recommend that, like rating skills for communication or teamwork. The data science resume is really a place to focus on your technical skills. Cool. So these are examples of skill listings that I think are really good. The important thing again is like read through the job description and find out what technical skills they're looking for. Usually it's Python or R. R and Python are usually the golden standard of tools in data science. So I recommend definitely listing either Python or R first in all of your skill listings. depending on the job description, you can also like find what other tools are looking for. Like if they're looking for people familiar with SQL, if they're interested in people familiar with Spark or Redshift or Hadoop, like those are all useful to put in. The skills you put in really help show like what kind, the order you put things in really help suggest what of course it suggests what your skill set is best at. If you list SaaS first, like people will end up, like SaaS is usually associated with much larger, older companies. If you list Excel first, it's much more associated with business analytics and various like various finance things. If you list R or Python first, like that's just a very classical like data science skill set. And I definitely recommend customizing this. Like skills are one of the easiest things to customize. You can simply reorder. You can reorder the skills on your resume based on what the job description wants. So I usually recommend putting R or Python first, but you could find a job where they're looking for Excel or something like that. Or they're looking for a job that's very heavy on software engineering. Then you can put all of your programming languages and various software engineering tools first. Again, skills are one of the easiest things to customize, so I heavily recommend investing in ordering them appropriately. Cool. So my next tip is about projects. I don't recommend listing common projects or homework. These are some examples I found. I found one with about sentiment analysis of Yelp reviews. Sometimes people mention some of the getting started competitions on Kaggle, like machine learning for classification. I found one about someone working on a simulated data set. I found one work about people working on classification on the MNIST data set. Like these are all very familiar problems in the data science space and end up becoming very common homework problems or very common guided examples. And they aren't as helpful in distinguishing you from other applicants. And especially, so I always recommend putting more other projects that are more novel. My next section is going to cover more about that. So when you do talk about projects, I do recommend showing your results and including links, especially if you're putting up any sort of Kaggle competition. Please include your percentile rank. Like that helps whoever reading your resume a lot to like understand where you are in the competition. Like I think anything above maybe like the top 10% is like very good and can help show off your abilities. I also recommend definitely including links to write-ups and papers are always very helpful. They let the hiring manager or recruiter dig in deeper to whatever you're interested in looking at. I always try to bias towards maybe real world messy problems where you find something new rather than common course projects or homework problems, because that shows your ability to make independent analyses, independent impact. For these specific screenshots, like these are examples of project sections I really like. The first one is a Kaggle style data science competition. The writer of this clearly explains like their rank, clearly explains the difference between their variance and the top score. Like this is just 2 lines and it very clearly demonstrates that this person is performing very well in the competition. Like that's like really good signal for a hiring manager or a recruiter to have this. Yeah. Another one right here. This one is also very succinct. The next one, it's by Edward Chen. This one is also very succinct. I like this one a lot. Again, results for Kaggle competitions, like demonstrating that they've placed in the top 10%, submitting links to papers, listing a lot of their tools and skills. Like these are all very useful. And also like the additional link to a blog. that lets the recruiting or hiring manager find out more. Cool, moving on to my eighth tip. My eighth tip is filling out your online presence. So this can be anything from, the most basic is your LinkedIn. Like recruiters and hiring managers do look at your LinkedIn. It is kind of an extended resume. It is nice to have at least a listing, some bio and a profile picture, a listing of your jobs. Getting to an all-star profile on LinkedIn is very helpful. And there are all kinds of various other profiles, like the Kaggle profile and GitHub profiles can help. Kaggle profiles and GitHub profiles can help show off your work. And I do recommend filling out the profiles. Like there's rooms to put in bios, there's rooms to put in bios, there's room to put in links on things. For GitHub, there's rooms to put descriptions for your repositories. I see a lot of GitHub profiles where there are no descriptions for the repositories, and it makes a lot of difference to show that you have some sort of repository. In addition, beyond a lot of the portfolio resume sites like GitHub or Kaggle or LinkedIn, there's also various forms of like blogging or just knowledge sharing services. Of course, like Quora, I'll put a quick plug, but you can also put in your blog, Medium, Stack Exchange, Stack Overflow, like all kinds of things like that. Data science specifically, a lot of it is about knowledge sharing, and a lot about it is about communicating what the data means to other people. And if you link to a blog, if you link to a Quora presence, if you can link to a Medium, like all of that stuff is like very helpful. All of that stuff is very helpful in general. Just some sort of like online blogging or knowledge sharing or Q&A platform. Like those are all very useful. Cool. Moving on to my last tip. The experience really is the core. The experience really is the core of your resume. But if you don't have any work experience, like that's totally okay. Like there's actually plenty of other things you can include in. If you don't have work experience, any sort of independent projects, like capstone projects you do for your program or your course, independent research, your thesis work, Kaggle competitions, like all of those are very helpful. I recommend like avoiding any homework or things like that, but focusing on any sort of independent projects. Like these are a substitute for work experience if you don't have work experience to put in your resume. I don't recommend putting irrelevant experience in your resume. Try to put in projects. Try to put in data science projects instead of a job in instead of a job that's not related to data science in any way. For your work experience, I think there's going to be another session today that's going to cover this. That's going to cover this more. But really, to think about how you portray yourself in your work experience, definitely always look at the job description, and you can usually get a very good hint at what this job description is looking for. Like it could be looking for someone who can deploy production level code. It can be looking for people who can do data analysis. It can be looking for people who do modeling, statistics, products, metrics, like all these kind of things. If you can talk about the model you built for your previous internship or job, like that can help demonstrate the modeling aspect. If you were able to commit the model to production, like that's really helpful. You can mention that as well. If you've done statistics or data analysis, and the job description is looking for that, that's incredibly useful to put in as well. If you help develop metrics and report on metrics, like basically the data science job is incredibly diverse, and the different job descriptions will be looking for different things. So if you read the job description, you can find out what they're looking for, and you can tailor your descriptions of what you did towards what the job is looking for. And that can be incredibly helpful. Cool. So that's my 9 tips. I'm going to do a very quick recap. Tip number 1, keep your resume simple, 1-page max. Tip 2, don't include any objectives. You can put it in a cover letter if you want, but cover letters are totally optional and really only useful, and you can like customize the whole thing for the company. 3, I do recommend listing coursework. This doesn't take up that much space and very quickly helps the resume screener identify some of the training you've had. This is also an opportunity to put in any MOOC or online courses that you've taken. Tip number 4, don't rate your skills numerically. You can avoid ratings overall at all, or if you want, you can put something like proficient. Tip 5, try to tailor your skills towards the job. Like I always recommend customizing a resume for the position you're applying for. Reordering skills based on what the job mentions is an incredibly easy way to customize your resume. Tip 6, don't list common projects or homework. Like this actually makes it hard. These are very common and make it hard for you to distinguish yourself. 7, do show results and include links. Like if you can clearly show the impact you've had, link to further analysis, that's really helpful. Number 8, fill your online presence, whether that be like LinkedIn, GitHub, Kaggle, any sort of blog, any sort of like online website. Like this is helpful. You definitely don't have to do all of them, but pick a few of your favorites and include some links. Like these are very helpful. And last one, like tailor your experience towards the job. Like these are incredibly helpful. And I think overall, these 9 tips are ways to represent yourself the best. Like everyone has a lot of experience, and in order to have the best chance for a resume, it really is important to make your resume simple, make your resume succinct, and maybe most importantly, like tailor yourself towards the job you're applying for. If you're interested in more, there are more sessions today. I'll be on the live portfolio resume analysis with data science hiring managers tomorrow, where me and other panelists, we will go deeper into select resumes. Cool. So that concludes my presentation. If you're interested in applying to Quora, I have the link right there. You can find me on Quora or via Twitter. Cool, thank you. So I'm open for any questions.
Awesome, and we have a lot of questions that have come in, and Alexi, who's moderating our chat, is kind of sending them through and compiling them. So, one that came up really quickly, and you just spoke to a little bit, was how you should handle listing relevant coursework if it's done through a MOOC or a boot camp. And should the presentation differ versus traditional classes, or how would you position those?
So if you've done substantial coursework, like a series of coursework at some sort of like data science program, like I know there are various sorts of like online data science specializations or nano degrees or things like that. You can put those under education. Like right next to what university you attended to. Like I think it's totally okay to put it fully in the education system in there, and of course you can list your coursework. Like those programs are can be useful because there's very relevant coursework there. And I would just, if you've done a program, I would put it at an equal level as your university and list out the courses. If you've done like maybe 1 or 2 courses, you can put those under a general coursework session, or you could put those at a general coursework session. You could also even try to list it as a right in education. I think that's fine as well. Like for any sort of online classes you take, I would just list it under the regular education session and list out coursework.
Excellent. And then a couple other questions have come in about cover letters. So 1, are they really optional? And then 2, particularly if you're viewing someone's resume who's trying to change careers into data science. So somebody that doesn't have a CS degree, could a cover letter be more important, or would you recommend one in that situation?
So I think cover letters are optional for most people. However, if you do have a special situation, especially if you're trying to change careers, cover letters do provide really good context. In general, like if you're sending the same cover letter to a lot of different companies where you're mentioning like a lot of your technical skills and things like that, a lot of that repeats the things on your resume, so it's not as useful. But if your cover letter can like specifically mention your interest, very specifically mention your interest in the company or cover some sort of special situation, I think that is useful. Usually cover letters, like sometimes recruiters don't look at cover letters, but especially for most like web application tracking portals, it's really easy to scroll down into the cover letters. So if you have a special situation, like I think a cover letter would be helpful, or if you can really tailor it towards the company itself. Otherwise, if it's a generic cover letter, it's not very useful at all.
Awesome. And then we've had a couple of people mention these kind of bots that filter resumes, and they have a question about, how can you survive that initial filtering process and actually end up in a screener's hands, a human's hands? Do you have any recommendations for how to optimize your resume for those bots?
So I'm not really familiar. I'm not actually familiar with the bots or how they work. I've heard rumors about them. I don't actually know what companies end up using them. But just general advice is that the bots are probably looking for some sort of keyword. Like you could I'm guessing like Python. Just put if the bots are filtering on resumes, the bots are almost certainly looking for like very important keywords, and the keywords are hopefully, or they should be, highlighted in the job description. So if you suspect that a bot might be filtering for your resume, I would put more emphasis on the skills section or the coursework section to list out a lot of the relevant skills. So Python, R, Pandas, maybe statistics, modeling, and things like that. It's really hard. I'm not sure what a bot would be filtering for. The most important thing might be like Python or R. Like if you include the words Python or R in your resume, that might be one of the like biggest things maybe a bot might be looking for. Although again, I'm not really familiar with these bots. Basically, you can put keywords. You can put all kinds of keywords in your resume, but not in like a black hat SEO kind of way. But you can integrate it naturally into your skills section or the descriptions of your experience or your coursework or things like that.
Great, those are really good tips.
Yeah.
And then we have another question about how you would recommend incorporating a portfolio into your one-page resume. So would you just include a URL or a link, or is there something flashier you could do or would recommend doing?
I definitely recommend a URL or link. I do believe that resumes really should be one page, and that makes it so there's not that much room to put in a whole portfolio. But I do see from project sections, like for project sections, there's always rooms for links to write-ups. Like I actually really like reading these write-ups, especially since a lot of data science is about like communication and like presenting data. So having links to write-ups are like incredibly helpful. For general portfolios, GitHub is always good for GitHub is always good for just general code repositories. You can also like have write-ups and markdown on there. You can invest in a personal website. Like those are very optional. You can also have a personal blog or a Quora or any sort of like blogging software where you can put up your write-ups for things, or YouTube link or any things like that. Basically links to write-ups or links to videos or links to code repositories. Like those are really helpful. So I definitely suggest like making your portfolio offline. Making your portfolio online, but not in your resume, and linking to various parts of your portfolio.
So, a lot of the people tuning in and are part of CareerCon are, early on in their data science career, trying to land their first job, switching from other industries. So kind of with that lens in mind, what kind of accomplishments or projects would immediately catch your eye in that kind of 20-second window that you talked about, or even shorter when you're kind of briefly skimming over a pile of resumes?
I love projects. I love projects where people show that they're interested in data in a way that goes beyond like a homework assignment. Like any sort of like class final projects where you explore an interesting data set and find interesting results. Like I really like those a lot. like especially if you're taking some sort of data science class with a final project, like I think these are actually fairly common. Well, they're increasingly common in universities, but you can put effort into the write-up. I really like seeing like really good write-ups where people find interesting and novel things. Yeah, so I love independent projects where people can write up their findings and like have some visualizations and share their work. And a lot of people, you can do this via like course final projects. Like there are avenues in various like data science classes and universities or online programs where you can show these things off. Yeah.
So another question coming in a few times is about, academia and how you present that on your resume. So should you be putting your publication, your supervision, how would you recommend structuring your resume and presenting your work if you're coming from an academic background primarily?
Yeah. So from an academic background, usually your thesis counts as a project. It counts as a very large project. So I've seen a lot of people coming from an academia background. They put in their main thesis as a project or even as experience, and they can list out all of the relevant skills that they've done, especially for any sort of like social science or economics, or biology, or any sort of like more some of the quantitative like data-oriented sciences. A lot of those sciences are about ingesting massive amounts of data and applying field-specific techniques in order to gain insight from it. Like that's already incredibly valuable if you can like show that off as a project. Like that's already incredibly valuable. If for people with like computer science or like physics or mathematics or statistics backgrounds, you can also talk about like the techniques you're developing or techniques you're evaluating, and things like that. So I would recommend like rewriting it as a project. Usually lists of publications are not as useful. They also take up a lot of space. So I recommend rewriting a lot of that as like projects or experience. Like I think any sort of research, any sort of research, your thesis definitely counts as a very large scale project.
So we have a few questions coming in about how to present your experience if you're applying for a job that has kind of software engineer in the title. So for example, software engineer for a big data team. For those positions, would you recommend including both data science and development projects on the resume, or how would you kind of balance those things?
I see there are two kind of roles, data science roles, that are very heavy in software engineering. The first one I see as like a machine learning engineering or some sort of data projects role. For that one, I think a lot of it is traditional software engineering, like focusing very heavily on software engineering and also putting in machine learning and also Kaggle competitions experience, like the combination of predictive modeling, all kinds of modeling, and like traditional software engineering, systems design. Like that's incredibly helpful. The second job I see in data science that's very heavy in software engineering is like data infrastructure engineering. So people who manage all of the data clusters, make sure that like Spark, Hadoop, Hive, Redshift, all those tools like work well. That I see as like very that I see more of a that I see more aligned towards traditional like infrastructure engineering or traditional software engineering. Knowledge of machine learning and things like that aren't as useful, but I would recommend like a lot of traditional software engineering skills, infrastructure, and also ability to work with databases. Like that's very helpful. Again, like there's just so many different data science roles. There are data science roles that require production level code. There are data science roles that don't require production level code. And it really, and it's really important to try to focus your skills towards what the job description is asking for.
Great, just a couple more questions. So somebody is asking about how important it is to be familiar with some of the more popular visualization tools, for example, Tableau or Plotly.
So I don't think it's important to be familiar with either of those. Like Tableau is mostly actually a very user-friendly. Tableau is supposed to be a user-friendly, mostly not technical tool that's very specific to a company. Like Tableau is something like I view Tableau and Plotly as things that companies can like are totally okay with you learning on the job. Like there's a lot of very specific there's a lot of very specific things, like even working with like Hadoop or Hive, that it's actually very hard to get experience with outside of a company. So companies are mostly looking for very general, a lot of like very general skills, like especially Python and R are huge. And if you're thinking about visualization, like knowledge of like ggplot in R or like the normal matplotlib in Python is totally sufficient. Yeah. Plotly is pretty fun too. I've played around with it. It's also I view it mostly as like a very cool like extend, like I view it kind of like as a library. I view it as a library with lots of like cool extensions and a fun UI. Yeah.
Great. And then, a final question that's a little bit not totally on topic, but one that I think it would be great to wrap up on is just, in your experience, what are some common assumptions or expectations candidates or new hires have about data science roles that aren't true?
I think a lot of people by default think data science is all about predictive modeling and machine learning. And while that is definitely true, for some roles, I think the breadth of data science like actually extends far beyond like simply predictive modeling and machine learning. So it's especially for any data science role that works a lot on like machine learning and predictive modeling, most of the work is actually in engineering complex machine learning systems. Like most of the work in setting up a proper production level machine learning system is actually in setting up all of the backend infrastructure, the training pipelines, the feature, all of the feature frameworks, and all the things like that. So there aren't actually as many roles that are purely about. I haven't seen that many roles that are purely about like modeling or like predict or I haven't seen that many roles that are purely about predictive modeling or purely about modeling and things like that. A lot of the roles are a mixture of a lot of different things, like engineering and also like analytics and analysis and things like that. So it is really important to like try to, especially for a lot of jobs, like put in some like software engineering experience, put in some statistics experience, list out coursework in both like computer science and statistics. Basically what is good for the role, and the role is usually not purely predictive modeling.